A man walks along the streets on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, heading toward the intersection of Broad Street and Wall Street. Holding his hand and keeping pace is his 9-year-old grandson. Young Daniel Frischberg is about to get a first-hand look at the New York Stock Exchange. He doesn't realize it yet, but his destiny is to be a major player in the world of finance. What he's learned over nearly 50 years, he'll teach you today, and it's all free of charge. There's a billionaire locked inside you. The key to freedom is information, the kind of information you find here on the MoneyMan Report. Now, here's the Money Man. Here's Dan Frischberg.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the MoneyMan Report. I'm Dan Frischberg. Once again, I'm the luckiest man in the world, sitting next to the beautiful Alicia, who was the originator of this program. And in fact, I have a free, it's not meant to be a free webinar. It was actually a $200 webinar, but I'm making it free now. It's up there on the website, themoneyman.com. You can actually go there, and all you have to do is click on the button, and that's it. You can sign up for it and watch immediately. You don't have to wait. You don't have to show up at a certain time. You can watch that webinar on demand. And you're going to find that it tells you exactly how to participate in the fastest growing, biggest money-making deal that has existed in the last 30 or 40 years. And that is this digital transformation and all these things happening at exactly the same time, which is they're printing all this money, the dollar is worth less, everything that's scarce is therefore worth more, making everything go up. Even if you had a lousy stock, it's going to go up just because the dollar is going down. Next, the digital transformation is spreading around the world. We have it in the United States, but understand that there's 2 billion people that are going to be living like we do now. They can't do it right now. They're just getting electricity, just getting computers, and they want to have what we have. The other day, I wanted to order some sneakers, and I was driving with Alicia, and I started to order my sneakers on my telephone, calling Amazon, and she said, "Are you crazy? You're going to kill us." And so I had to pull over into a parking lot. I ordered my sneakers on Amazon in like 2 minutes. Then we got back on the road. The next day, my sneakers are delivered. You understand that they can't do that in a little village in India. They don't live that easy. They have to take a bus to a place where there's a store, right? They live in a much more difficult world, but they want to live like we do, and they're going to live like we do. Enabling them to do that are these digital companies that have originated, in all these inventions started here. We can invest in them. I do invest in them, and they're expanding and making me a fortune because the business model is digital. They can expand without expense, and everybody in the world wants them. They're going to have another 1 billion customers over the next few years. They're going to make 3 or 4 times the amount of money that they're making now, and I can own those companies. And I can own them using leverage with very little money. And on themoneyman.com, you can click and watch a webinar on how to learn how to do that the best way. It's very, very important that you learn how to do this.
It's themoneyman.com. And what's the next, the one you just started talking about, a company?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was going to tell you about Pacific Biosciences, whose stock here on Monday is going down a lot. And that stock went down a lot in the last few days.
Why?
Well, because they're selling these stocks. It's a pullback. But you understand that this stock was maybe $6 and now it's like $35. Maybe it was $45 a couple of days ago. And those prices are not right, actually. Let me give you the real prices. That stock Pacific Biosciences just a week or so ago was at 50 something, $55. Now it's at $27. But do you understand that in November, that stock was at 10? Now you see, it fluctuates. So look, it was at 40 and then it went down to 30 and then it went up to 55. Now it's down to 27. So basically, it's fluctuating a lot. It's a very volatile company. But the stock was at $15 only a couple of months ago. And it never had been above $15 a couple of months ago. But back in November, it was at 15, and back before that, it was at 10 in October. And in September, it was at 5, and now it was at 55, and now it's at 27. It's interesting because they call volatility going down. Volatility doesn't mean going down. Think about the word. Volatility doesn't, but think about how that impacts the way you live and how that shows how people feel and how dumb that thinking is. Volatility means moving a lot, up and down, right? Oscillating, going up and down. When it goes down, they call it volatility. When it goes up, they call it going up. Right? In other words, it's natural to them that it go up. When it goes down, they call it volatility. In fact, this stock is somewhere between $27 and $40, fluctuating over the last month, but it was only $5 6 months ago, right? In other words, it's volatile, of course, because the company is selling a lot, and it's clearly going to make a fortune.
What they do?
I hardly understand what they do. What they do is they have a thing called SMRT. It's single molecule real-time sequencing technology. So what's happening is that for the companies that are doing this DNA remodeling, and you know that when you have a baby, you go and you get a little genetic test, and it tells you this baby is susceptible to this and susceptible to that. I just saw a friend of ours had her breast removed. And the reason was because they could see that genetically she was likely to get breast cancer. It was something that her grandmother had and her mother had. And they could see that she had the right genetic makeup to get breast cancer. And so they avoided her getting breast cancer and dying like her parents did. And because they could read her genes. And now they're actually learning how to change the genes. But in order to be able to do that, they have to be able to see it. So this is for carrier screening and sequencing technology. Now, Invitae is a company that I was invested in. Invitae is actually buying the technology now from Pacific Biosciences. And
so soon they're going to be purchased then.
Well, actually, here's what's happening. The stock is going up and down, but a Japanese company, SoftBank, you want to know what happens with people that really know, that don't care what those idiots on television say, and aren't worried about the interest rate. So here's what they did. This is SoftBank. You may have heard of them. SoftBank Management is a multi-billion dollar hedge fund of Japanese guys. They just purchased a $900 million convertible senior note in PAC Bio, in Pacific Biosciences. That means if they lend them the money, they get a bond, right? The bond pays 1.5% interest. So in other words, Pacific Biosciences just received almost $1 billion for virtually free that they can use to expand. Why? Because they know that this company has got unique thing that everybody in the world needs. Genetic
sequencing
is going to spread all over the world, and it's going to be every part of everyone's life, and you're going to know exactly what your genetic makeup is, and they're going to change it, and they're remodeling it. And CRISPR, they're actually changing people's genes. All of this stuff requires that you be able to read it. The reason that they're separate, really, Illumina was a company that we owned and made a lot of money on several years ago, because they brought genome sequencing to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed it from costing you millions of dollars to get gene sequencing done, and it would take months. And with that Illumina equipment, you could get it done in a matter of a day or two, and it would cost $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a matter of your doctor can do it, and it costs a couple of $100,
Mm-hmm.
and you get it in the afternoon. So the equipment that they're using to do this, the most modern equipment, Illumina tried to buy Pacific Biosciences,
Mm-hmm.
but the government didn't let them do that for monopoly reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They said it was anti-competitive, that Illumina was going to control this enormous, crucial industry,
Mm-hmm.
and so they didn't let them do it. So Pact Biosciences is now on their own, not being bought by Illumina. They've got the best technology, and the companies that we've been investing in are now relying on them because they've got the best technology. So I was starting to tell you that the Japanese company, talking about not listening to the idiots on television, telling you that it's all about interest rates changing by 1%,
Mm-hmm.
or
Fear
an
of
inflation rate of
inflation.
2%. You've never even lived, in my whole life, we've never had an inflation rate below 2% until just recently. But we've made, I've been investing in the stock market since I was 14 years old, and no one ever cared that the inflation rate was above 2%, and no one cares now, to tell you the truth. They just don't know what to say, and they want to try to explain things. And now they're just repeating what each other say. Somebody said it and another person said it, and now they're taking it as a fact. When everybody says the same thing, it becomes a fact, except it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't you believe what's happening at all. But here's what happened. SoftBank, the Japanese guys that really understand money, because they've made billions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not $60,000 a year commentator on television. They really have made billions, and they understand. So what they did is they bought $900 million of convertible senior notes in Pact Bio. $900 million that they're only getting paid 1.5%. So Pact Bio now has the right, the ability, the money to expand and hire a sales force and do all that stuff, which they were relying on being bought, but now they're not, right? Now they're on their own. So SoftBank gave them $900 million, and SoftBank's got the right to buy this stock, convert their convertible note into Pact Bio stock at $43.50. And so Pact Bio's got nothing to lose. It would be great. And of course, the stock is going to settle at $43.50 before long because those guys have it. So the stock's at $28 now. Bottom line is, obviously, the stock is worth a lot more than $43.50. It's going to make a lot more. And that's what guys who really understand the world are doing. We've got to stop for a break, and I'm going to be right back right after this. You want to learn more about this, go to themoneyman.com and watch my webinar. Stay with us. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Each week in his live video market and economy update offered to his inner circle, Dan Frischberg delivers the in-depth, professional version of his famous Market X-ray report, live and interactive. Now that means you get to ask all the questions you want. And if you can't make the live meeting, you can watch the report on demand. Then email your questions in, and Dan will email the answers back or include them in the next live report. Week in and week out, Dan brings you the ideas and specific stock picks from his friends, the people you see on TV and read about in the papers. You'll see what they're buying, how they're hedging, and when they're taking money off the table. At last, you'll get to see how the insiders negotiate the institutional macro bonds that billionaires on Wall Street rely on, the ones almost everyone else never even heard of. When you become an Inner Circle member, Dan will share with you his lifetime of experience and guide you to the best teachers, the best stock pickers, the best option strategists. And you'll be invited to exclusive working vacations in beautiful locations for the Inner Circle only, where you'll rub elbows with some of the most famous investors on Wall Street. So, how do you value the lifetime of skill and experience of a top investor on a mission to share it all with you and help you become one of the few winners? If you've been listening to Dan for a few years, he's likely already made you tons of money, or even more important, saved you from losing a fortune. Now, there are limits to the capacity of the online video sessions, but right now, for a limited time, Dan's offering you the position of charter subscriber, get this, for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. For all the info or to subscribe, just simply click on themoneyman.com. themoneyman.com.
You're tuned in to the MoneyMan Report with your host, TV and radio money man, Dan Frischberg. For more information about everything we're talking about, go to themoneyman.com right now. That's themoneyman.com.
All right, we're back. This is the MoneyMan Report. And if you go to themoneyman.com, the stuff that we're talking about, making real money, not believing the crap on television, and actually understanding how to understand the value of these companies and grow with them, and to take advantage of the fact that this stock has basically lost half of its value and is still 3 times what it was a little while ago. And the idea that when it comes down, they call that volatility. When it went up, they call that the stock going up. Anyway, here's another company we've been talking about for months and months and months. Fastly. When I started talking about Fastly down in like the middle of 2019, the stock was in the 20s.
Yes.
$27.
90 cents.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Now today the stock is at $65. But they think that it's come down a lot. Nobody remembers that it tripled over the last year, and at $65, it's 3 times what it was a year ago.
So what have you done for me
because
lately?
the stock went up to 100, and now it's down to 65. So they're saying, "Oh my God, the bottom's falling out of the stock. What is wrong with this stock? Holy mackerel!" So now, let me tell you that another one of those billionaire companies that actually knows how to make money in the stock market and does not watch television to find out what's going on. So in September of 2019, the stock was at like $27. Now it's 65, and they're worrying, oh my God, it's come down so much. The stock is 3 times where it was when we bought it, and it has made us about 50 times our money over that 2-year period. 50 times our money by actually buying an option on that stock. Now, what I want to tell you is that another big company has just done a convertible note on Fastly. The same thing. They lent Fastly the money, but this time there's 0 interest rate because Fastly is even more established and more certain to make a fortune than Pacific Bio. Fastly is like the leading company that makes Amazon work. It makes Uber work. It's a platform. It costs them nothing to expand. And what it does is it makes all these internet things work. Remember 5 years ago how if you wanted to watch a movie, you couldn't watch it on your phone because you didn't have the bandwidth.
Buffers.
You couldn't watch it, right. But when you wanted to watch it at home, it would still take you a half hour to load, and then it would buffer and stop in the middle. Did you ever wonder why does it work so well now? Because it's built on the Fastly platform, which has servers all over the place. And imagine that if this is working in New York City, and it's working in Texas, and it's working in California, and imagine how important it is for India. Yeah, in Florida. Yeah, but in India, they want to be able to receive this stuff, and they don't have the bandwidth, and they hardly even have electricity. So how could they be buying stuff on Amazon like I do using their telephone? Here's how they do it. Amazon's built on the Fastly platform. Fastly's got servers very close all over the world because remember, Amazon's in the cloud. It's far, far away from you. That's why it would take a long time to load. long time to load. So it's built on the Fastly platform. Fastly's got software, security, and little servers everywhere to make it work so that everything loads very fast. So the companies now can't possibly live without having that edge cloud service and being able to load fast.
Everybody watching Netflix.
Yes. And so here's what happens. These billionaires here's what they did. They want to get a cheap deal. So what they did is they lent money to Fastly, $900 million they lent to Fastly. Zero interest. Zero interest. And they have an option that allows them to buy that stock at $103. Remember, it's at 65 now, but it was at 120 not long ago. They can buy that stock at $103 whenever they want to. They're getting no interest. Fastly gets to take that money, that extra almost $1 billion, and spend it on marketing and spend it on whatever they want. They have no cost of expansion, no cost of doing anything. And these guys want the right to buy. They got an option in return for that, lending the money. They're going to get, they have an option to buy that stock at 103. You know that you can actually buy an option to buy that stock at 103, and you don't even have to lend the company $1 billion. But most people don't know how to do that. And the reason this company has made, Fastly has made us so much money over the last couple of years is because we did exactly what that big hedge fund did. Only instead of lending them $1 billion, or instead of working there and getting on their stock accumulation plan, we simply went and bought those same option that company that gave them the loan did. And we have the right to buy that stock. Only we had the right to buy the stock when it was at 15. We had the right to buy the stock at 30. Right? We bought that long-term multi-year option, and it cost us maybe $4, right? Then when the stock went up to 70 and we had the right to buy it at 30, that meant that option was worth $40, and we just changed $3 into $40 in a year and a half. Why? Because the stock went up. Why did the stock go up? Because the company's sales are growing so rapidly, because they're essential to everyone. That's what's going on.
How would they know how to do that?
Well, I can teach you how to do it, and I've taught a lot of people how to do it. And you're going to see testimonials in that little, you can go to themoneyman.com. You will find there a link, and the link takes you to allow you to sign up for my webinar, which instead of being $200, $199 is free now. Free to you. Instead of you waiting for next Thursday to do it, now it's all recorded, and I've recorded the webinar that people used to be waiting around for. You can now watch it on demand. You can watch it right there in your living room. You don't need to be with anybody. You can watch the whole thing. It shows you exactly how all this works. It shows you how to do it, and it shows you how to learn really in detail how to do it. And that these companies, their stocks are selling off right now. It's so interesting. I'm looking at Crowdstrike Holdings, and I'm going to look right now, and I'm recording this. Actually, this is a recorded show, and I'm making this recording on Monday afternoon. And this stock, which was up close to $260, Crowdstrike, it's a security company. What they do is they stop hackers. And, hacking is going wild now. And every big company is worried about hackers. They're worried to death about hackers because they're going to get sued. They're going to get in trouble. They get bad press. They want to stop it. So Crowdstrike's got this artificial intelligence. It's completely automated, completely in the cloud. No expenses to expand whatsoever. And they've just got, all they do is, the only thing they spend money on is more research and development to get better. Now, what they do is all these big companies that subscribe to them, you can't subscribe because it's for big companies. But all the big companies that you are attached to subscribe to CrowdStrike. What happens? CrowdStrike, when somebody hacks into that company that you're a customer of, they find it immediately by artificial intelligence. They beat it right away. They get rid of those people right away. And then all the thousands of customers that are subscribers to CrowdStrike all get the solution to that by artificial intelligence online right away, and that hacker can never bother anybody anymore because they solved it, and now everybody in the network's got it. Everybody wants that software. Everybody's going for it. And when I look at it now, I'm shocked. Well, again, you say, oh my God, it's so volatile. It fell from 260 down to 180. What's wrong with this company? Yeah, I know. But you see, at the beginning of 2021, the stock was at 160. And in October, the stock was at 120. And last summer, the stock was at 80. And what's happening is that this company is spreading its skill everywhere, and it's changing the world. And the thing is that it's doing great here in the United States and in Europe. But do you understand that there are 300 million people here. There are 600 million people in Western Europe who live like we do. There are another 2 or 3 billion people who are going to live like we do over the next 10 years. And so CrowdStrike is going to be spreading to all the companies who reach them. And by the way, if there's a company that actually uses CrowdStrike, and remember that they're getting it by the number of people that are on them. So CrowdStrike is getting paid by the service. So as these companies expand, CrowdStrike automatically makes more money. Mm-hmm. And as I own CrowdStrike, I automatically make more money. So does it bother me when this stock dropped from 225 to 181? Does that bother me? The answer is yes, absolutely does. I hate it. Mm-hmm. And yet, I have to remind myself that I'm using the right side of my brain really hates it. That's the side that makes up stories and emotional things, and I hate it. But the left side of my brain is about facts. And it's about, now, we're not made to actually analyze things with the left side of our brain. We're made to make decisions with the right side. But on the left side, I'm using facts, and that's why we've been able to make so much money investing in companies, because we invest based on the facts rather than the emotions. And trust me, CrowdStrike is not being hurt by the inflation rate going up 0.5%, and it doesn't care whether the treasury rate went from 0.5% to 1% to 1.5%. And it won't matter if it goes to 2 or 2.5 either. Okay, I got to stop for a break. This is the MoneyMan Report. You want to learn more about how to make money with this stuff, go to themoneyman.com. You'll see a whole bunch of my television appearances. You'll see more about Alicia and her coaching people. And you will have a webinar about how you can learn how to make big money now while there's a digital transformation going on around the world, and while these stocks are down by as much as 30%. This is your time. Learn it now.
You've heard it said right here, with enough leverage, you can multiply your investing strength and move mountains. So think about it. How'd you like to own companies like Roku or MasterCard or Raytheon and put down as little as 5 or 10% to unlock the treasure chest of unlimited upside gains? You can, all the while drastically reducing your risk, and you can do it with zero borrowing costs. You just need that leverage and a little know-how. So Dan Frischberg is going to allow you to pick his brain to better understand the concept of leverage. These are special online training sessions called the Pick Dan's Brain Option Service. You can use just a little bit of money to potentially make incredible returns. If you want to make real money, you owe it to yourself to take advantage of this once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. All you have to do to try it is to go online and register so you can see the results for yourself. The cost is next to nothing, and look what's waiting for you. Each week, Dan will discuss a few detailed trades, quality, actionable trades. You get detailed instructions on buying and selling specific put and call options. The Pick Dan's Brain option service shares specific underlying stocks, expiration dates, strike prices, and shows you how much money you could make instantly. It's Dan Frischberg's time-tested, proven money-making discipline that he's used for 50 years to make himself and a lot of other people rich. Lots of other benefits are waiting for you, too, if you just register at themoneyman.com. That's all one word, themoneyman.com, for the Pick Dan's Brain option service. This is about teaching you the knowledge and skills. It's your responsibility to apply these skills and knowledge to your specific situation. It's too much to detail here, but all the info is right there at themoneyman.com.
You're tuned in to the MoneyMan Report with your host, TV and radio money man, Dan Frischberg. For more information about everything we're talking about, go to themoneyman.com right now. That's themoneyman.com.
All right, as promised, folks, we have Tobin Smith with us now, and we're going to keep him for as long as we can. Toby, last time you were on, before we get to any of the interesting stuff that's coming in the future, sure, you had a stock you were talking about. It was a very interesting stock, but it actually just took off. And I've got many people that are calling and saying, can you get Tobin Smith on again? Maybe he's got another one. But let's tell him about that one.
By the way, Dan, every stock I give you is going to double in value in every 6 weeks. That's just how I roll. Okay, so
of course,
you want to hang with the stock, you got to make the money.
Right. Okay, so first of all, let's tell people what Transformity is, and many of my listeners remember you from Changewave,
yep,
and that was a great project that you did. So, what exactly is Transformity?
Well, in essence, when we sold Changewave, and I took some time off, and I looked at this track record that we had for 10 years. Changewave was based on the concept, the very simple concept of what we call the Transformity principle, which is a fancy way of saying that the most powerful force in the world to create wealth and to destroy wealth is real secular transformational change, where, typically now we use the word sort of a disruptor comes in, and Netflix takes out, the video rental shops or blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're familiar with that concept now. It's just that transformation is powerful in multiple areas of economics, starting with the macro economy. And boy, have we seen that with the Federal Reserve. I mean, they transformed what it is to be a central bank. And now they've become a $10 trillion colossus, maybe going to be a $15 trillion colossus in a $20 trillion economy, right? So anytime you get, that rate of change is the rate of change, right? The second derivative, how powerful your change is going, and how steep is that change? Well, that creates wealth. It also destroys wealth. Again, look at Amazon and, look at Safeway or whomever. So what I did was...
Let's say, I get a lot of questions about that second derivative and the rate of change. And that's one of the reasons people were so surprised and didn't really understand why did the stock market start going up, because they were looking at the absolute level of activity, which was very low. But the minute we could see that the activity was going to improve, that was the end of the stock market going down. And they thought that it was some kind of a dislocation, but really what it was that the stock market keys off that second derivative, that rate of change, not off the absolute level. When things are getting better, it extrapolates.
Yeah, I mean, it is physics, and I got a C+ in physics, I want to tell you, but it does... the market keys out a lot of things. I don't think we can't underestimate how important it was for the Fed to come in and say, we used to be righteous about moral hazard and we're not going to bail out people. Well, forget that. There is no more moral hazard. Secondarily, if the Congress gives us $700 billion, we're going to push a button and create $7.5 trillion, and we're going to move that into deposits in the banks, and then we're going to lend that out.
And we're even going to set up dummy corporations.
Yeah.
And lend money to them so that
like
they can buy bonds. And
it's like they set up their own private SPACs, right? Special acquisition companies. They did their own SPAC with one push button. So transformational change is not a new concept, but the second part that we did in Changewave is we created what was called the Changewave Alliance, which was about 25,000 people around the world that we recruited. This is before LinkedIn. This is for everything. Oh, my Lord. And we made a deal with them. If they shared their expertise, and we had specific areas that we're looking for expertise, we weren't looking for guys who, were in the coal business, or we weren't looking for people who are in the milk business. But we were looking for technologies, emerging, existing. We were looking for energy, oil and gas. And the trade-off was that they would get essentially a free subscription at the time, which is $250, if they participated. If they didn't participate, they got put out. And from that, we developed the thing we didn't think about. So this is always, the good unexpected consequence was that those people were very early adopter type people. So for instance, when we got in, when we talked about the iPod back in 2003, we saw just how huge that adoption rate was going to be, because everything is based in Changewave and transformational change on the S curve, right? That things sort of get introduced and they go along, and it's like the lily pad, and all of a sudden a little white flower pops out of the lily pad, and then boom, right? So
the adoption phase.
The adoption phase. Now, you have the early adopter, you have the mid adopter, you have the late adopter. The third thing we based this all on was the concept of the reality that I noticed for like 35 years of doing this, that as you go up the S curve, people start extrapolating that S curve like it's going to continue to go. But yet these are the late adopters. So what's going to happen is you're going to get the other side. So we're very much into the concept of selling. As we
the other side is when
my grandmother got on AOL, for instance, that was time to get out of AOL.
Right. So that's the saturation phase.
Or it's even worse than, it's even more than that. It's I'm extrapolating the future to be the same as it's been the last 5 years, while at the same time, and the unique part of the math that I expect to get the Nobel Prize for, I run out to the mailbox every day, Dan, and it hasn't shut up yet.
Looking for your Nobel Prize.
Yeah. Is if Obama can get a Nobel Prize for doing nothing, I think I should be able to get it. Anyway, the concept is that the steeper the rise, the faster the saturation. And what made Apple different on this is because then they started adding in all the services. And now the services outsell the underlying product. And for revenue, and they're much higher margin than selling, product. I'm going to give a shout out to Apple, because one of our claims to fame was that when I interviewed Steve Jobs, they had asked him later, who was the research firm that had the best take on what Apple was really doing? And he said it was Tobin Smith and Changewave. Well, after I got off the floor and stopped crying, I realized that the way that we had this expanded research group, we could tell how the iPod was going to go. We could tell how that iPhone was going to be ridiculous. We could tell that, the music service was. So that gives us an edge. And now a lot of people do surveys, et cetera. But still now we have about 7,500 people in our research group. We're a little more focused.
This was the beginning. This was almost the prototype of a Facebook group.
Right. And the funny thing, the funny thing was that we did this all by hand, relatively. We were like in the Stone Age. Now we have LinkedIn. Now we go search out the people. We actually pay someone to go select the people to fill in blanks what we need, and we charge them. We charge them a reduced fee for the subscription, and if they actually contribute something that we find beneficial that helps us out, then we give them the subscription for free. So we try to make it that you got to give a little to get a little, and from that, research group, we have an engineer who was with us before in Changewave. Excuse me. He got hired at this company called Nikola Motors, which happens to be, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they're down southwest of me. And this guy, Trevor Martin, is sort of crazy, had come up with this concept that you could create a long-haul truck. And just think about this. If I'm like Daimler-Benz and I build a truck and I sell it to FedEx, right? So it's like $60,000. And then it goes for like 1 million miles and then it's sort of kaput. Well, the mathematics are, okay, I spent the 60 grand for the truck. I got to pay somebody to drive the miles and they get paid by miles. But the rest of the cost, $750,000 of the 1 million miles or $1 million of output per truck is diesel fuel. So Trevor Martin said, well, wait a minute. We can put Tesla type batteries in these trucks and then charge them with a fuel cell and then own the fuel cell sites along the way because, if you've ever driven across the country, particularly last time I did was on the Interstate 40. Oh my God. I mean, I don't know how many tens of thousands of trucks that I pass because I like to drive fast. But now he has the whole system reversed. Instead of the oil companies getting the $750,000, Nikola Motors gets the $750,000. And instead of selling the trucks to Anheuser-Busch, their first customer, they now have $3.5 billion of orders for these trucks. They're going to lease them for $1 a mile. And as the costs go down for electricity and for hydrogen, it's going to be cheaper than diesel. It's going to be zero carbon footprint. And,
But you're going to have the charge.
A young person,
they're going to have charging stations all the way.
You're saving the world, so it all fits.
Let me interrupt. You're going to have charging stations all along the way,
Yep.
and when you're paying the $1 a mile, 3,000 miles or whatever, that's going to include the refueling and
the fuel and the service and the payment. The cost. It's all wrapped into this payment. So what we fast came to the conclusion was that if you present value $3.5 to $4 billion of sales of these trucks, you're using the wrong math. You got a present value about $1 million of revenue from each one of those trucks, and now all of a sudden you're way past $3.2 billion in economic return, and you present value that, and that gave us a value of the company at about $45. All right, so in their last fundraising, they did a reverse merger with this now infamous SPAC, Special Acquisition Corporation, VTIQ. We did our research report on April 23rd, I think, and the SPAC was selling for $13, and we have a lot of subscribers to my newsletters and stuff. Transformativeresearch.com.
Hold on, SPAC means Special Acquisition.
Yes.
Company.
So this SPAC raised $200 million. Then they sold $600 million of what's known as a private equity or private investment in a public equity. So it's called a PIPE. $600 million, $200 million to Vantage Group, which is a fabulous investment private equity firm. $300 million to Fidelity and $250 million to, I can't remember the last group. They also raised $250 million from the largest truck manufacturer in the world, which is in Europe, and they raised another $200 million from a large group that makes key products. So the difference between Nikola Motors and Tesla is, God bless Tesla, they engineered and invented all their stuff, and they make all their stuff. But it cost them about $12 billion to get to the point where they made all that stuff. These guys are up and rolling and putting trucks off the line early next year out of Ulm, Germany, which I will be there for the day that it goes out, since I am now Mr. Nikola. It's a completely different business model. When you sell a Tesla, that's it. You get some service fees, but the electricity is from somebody else. The insurance is from somebody else. Oh, by the way, these guys even do the insurance. So, I mean, it's an $800 billion a year market that they're addressing, and they have clearly a better mousetrap. It's better than the Tesla truck by a mile because of the fuel cell. And the other companies, the final part of this dealio, is that the other big guys, Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, the truck, other guys I can't remember, when they go to this electric, and they're going to go electric because what's driving all of this are regulations. In Europe, if you run a truck service, heavy-duty trucks, you have to be 40% non-diesel emission by 2030, or you can't run your trucks. Well, the only way you can get there is to have at least 40% of your trucks be zero carbon.
Hold this thought, because we're going to stop for a break, and we're going to come back, and there's a million questions we have about this deal, and then other ones, and how you find them, and the whole thing.
All right.
People would like to understand exactly what you're doing there, because you're just a mine of information and a source of wealth. And you know, we have a world where people are complaining because it's not fair, because I don't end up with as much money as other people, right? And I think it's because of my accent, my nationality, my color, my everything. And I didn't realize that it was because there's a connection between what you do and how much you get. That we're missing that part.
Are you becoming a philosopher now?
I am a philosopher. So we're going to do that when we come back. We're going to stop for a break, and I'm going to be back with Tobin Smith of Transformative Research. So stick around.
Each week in his live video market and economy update offered to his inner circle, Dan Frischberg delivers the in-depth professional version of his famous market x-ray report, live and interactive. Now that means you get to ask all the questions you want. And if you can't make the live meeting, you can watch the report on demand. Then email your questions in, and Dan will email the answers back or include them in the next live report. Week in and week out, Dan brings you the ideas and specific stock picks from his friends, the people you see on TV and read about in the papers. You'll see what they're buying, how they're hedging, and when they're taking money off the table. At last, you'll get to see how the insiders negotiate the institutional macro bonds that billionaires on Wall Street rely on, the ones almost everyone else never even heard of. When you become an Inner Circle member, Dan will share with you his lifetime of experience and guide you to the best teachers, the best stock pickers, the best option strategists. And you'll be invited to exclusive working vacations in beautiful locations for the Inner Circle only, where you'll rub elbows with some of the most famous investors on Wall Street. So, how do you value the lifetime of skill and experience of a top investor on a mission to share it all with you and help you become one of the few winners? If you've been listening to Dan for a few years, he's likely already made you tons of money, or even more important, saved you from losing a fortune. Now, there are limits to the capacity of the online video sessions, but right now, for a limited time, Dan's offering you the position of charter subscriber, get this, for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. For all the info or to subscribe, just simply click on themoneyman.com. Themoneyman.com.
You're tuned in to the MoneyMan Report with your host, TV and radio money man, Dan Frischberg. For more information about everything we're talking about, go to themoneyman.com right now. That's themoneyman.com.
We're back with Tobin Smith. Thank you very much for joining us and being with us. And Toby, your company now is Transformative Research, and we were in the middle of talking about some people are just joining us. So we're in the middle of talking about a company that's a new trucking company with a whole new business model. You've explained a lot of it. I don't want to go back over the whole thing again, but just give them a 1 minute catch up.
1 minute. The company's Nikola Motors. They did a reverse merger last week. They're now publicly traded. They now have a $32 billion market cap, Dan, by the way. They are essentially disrupting the trucking industry, particularly the long haul, with not only electric powered trucks, but electric powered trucks that are charged by a fuel cell. And that fuel cell itself is recharged at hydrogen fill-up plants that will be built all along the country. They have about $3.8 billion of trucks already sold as these roll out.
But they don't have the charging station yet.
They don't have the charging station yet. They just purchased $150 million of hydrogen chargers from a public company actually in Sweden, which we've been long for a long time. It's up about 400%. It's called NELS. And they make by far the best fuel cell out there. So what's magic about it is that when they sell a truck or lease a truck to Anheuser-Busch or FedEx or multiple companies, the Anheuser-Busch only pays per mile. They pay a lease that's based on the mileage, and in that lease covers everything other than the driver and tires. Everything else is the hydrogen. So the idea was instead of $1 million of revenue from a truck, and usually after 1 million miles is how they run out. Instead of trading the truck in to sell, you just trade it into Nikola. They give you a new truck, and Nikola keeps the $750,000 out of that $1 million of expense that you paid to British Petroleum or Exxon. That's sort of the magic secret sauce.
And it's clean burning.
Oh yeah, I left that out. It's 100% carbon free. And because of the regulations, both in Europe, as I say, by 2030, if you run a fleet of trucks, 40% of your trucks have to be zero carbon based. Well, there's no other way you're going to get there with electricity, but you're not going to get there with electricity. And Elon Musk will be the first to tell you just with battery, because they only go about 300 miles. And also, they weigh 5 tons more, literally 5 tons more. With a much smaller battery, but with the recharging for the fuel cell, these trucks are going to go 600 miles. Oh, by the way, it goes 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds with a freaking trailer on the back. I don't know if you've driven a Tesla, but Tesla's...
I don't know how that's possible, but...
It is absolutely, but it's true. When you put your Tesla on the high-speed thing, it's about 2 seconds to get to 70. Well, these guys are, and I misspoke to 55. It's 2 3/4 seconds to get to 55, and your truck's going like. So it's better all the way around. Better business model, better business, and when we invested in the company via the SPAC, the company is worth essentially about $10 million, and I don't know. We have 2,500, 3,000. Subscribers. I believe every one of our subscribers, based on the email I've got, has owned the shares. And today they closed at $75. We bought them at $13 and $15, and that was starting.
So, do you think now that there's still a lot of room on the upside for the people that are hearing about this first time today?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things going here, Dan. And the one thing I think we all need to recognize is that we have this brand new millennial or Gen Z investor who is sitting on his phone with his Robinhood account, and he or she is buying stocks that, well, first off, they had 3 months to do nothing because they were laid off. Secondarily, they were used to be, just doing DraftKings and betting on sports, and then they didn't have any sports, so they decided to bet on stocks. A millennial stock example would be Tilray. If you remember Tilray 2 years ago, that was the first American-listed cannabis stock, and it came out of the blocks, $18 IPO, a regular IPO, and then ran to $300. Well, that was all the Robinhood guys.
They're like an option with a that's way in the money.
With a 5-year window.
So they must be selling for the $70 or...
Yeah, they're not, though. They're not. Because they're European exercise ones. You can't do a cashless. If you have warrants that are a cashless conversion, then then there's a 1-to-1. But after you take out the cost of shorting and buying a put, all the mechanics to underlie that warrant, they're selling for about $32. You can get this. It gives you the right to buy a share for $11.50. So your total cost for a $90 or $78 stock today would be, you'd be way in the money. But what's going to happen?
There's no options, and the warrants you have to are public.
Yeah, they're publicly traded. They're under NKLAW is the publicly traded warrant.
Cool. I got to stop for a little break. We're going to be right back with Tobin Smith, who can carry program almost by himself. I get to ask a question occasionally. I love doing this with you, Toby. We'll be right back.
You've been listening to the sound of your money growing. This has been the MoneyMan Report with your host, radio and TV money man, Dan Frischberg. Hear it again every weekday morning here on Bradenton's WWPR, broadcasting worldwide. It's Better Living Radio.